Um, Part 3 of the Sixth National Development Plan, Zambia, actually focuses on education and skills development. So it is within that segment of SNDP, which runs from 2011 to 2015, where education and skills development actually has been given um, a slot so that the country knows how education and skills development will drive this country forward into Vision 2030, where Zambia is expected to be among to develop into a middle income nation. Now, in order to interpret or to drive the objectives of the Sixth National Development Plan vis-à-vis education and skills development, the Ministry of Education, Science, Vocational Training and Early Education came up with a National Implementation Framework, Part 3. Now, this framework has three specific aims. The first is to provide to guide the implementation of Zambia's sixth national development plan for the period 2011 to 2015. The second is to provide a framework for the Ministry of Education, Science, Vocational Training and Early Education that will facilitate the realization of the sixth national development plan goals. And the third aim is to drive the education sector's contribution to the achievement of the Millennium Development Goals. This framework, the National Implementation Framework, will help to guide the articulation of broader objectives of the Sixth National Development Plan into clear activities in the field of education. You know, the NIF, which is the National Implementation Framework, in short, will provide guidelines that will help to translate most of the activities or objectives that are in the broader document, the Sixth National Development Plan, into activities that will make us reach our desired goals by 2015. The second uh, objective, as far as realizing this or guiding the implementation of the SNDP is concerned, this national implementation framework will serve as an important tool for monitoring implementation performance, focusing primarily on the achievement of outcomes and impact. And then thirdly, NIF will provide a framework for tracking resource utilization. Because remember, when we looked back at the fifth National Development Plan, we learned a lot of lessons from there because certain objectives were not met, and therefore, it kind of filtered into this phase, next 5 years, 2011 to 2015, and we saw that resources were not perhaps used as was intended. And therefore, the National Implementation Framework will come in to help in the monitoring and tracking this resource utilization. The Sixth National Development Plan had significant policy changes in as far as the education sector is concerned. We've seen the merger of three ministries, namely the Ministry of Education, Science and Vocational Training, and Early Childhood and Early Education. Now, this merger, this is the first time we're having such a huge ministry which caters for the early childhood stage and up to tertiary or university stage. Why is that so? It is advantageous because A, it helps to harmonize the planning of education delivery. Because instead of having three independent or different sectors in the education system, they've all been brought together under one umbrella, thereby making it very easy to plan. Secondly, it makes it very easy to target, um, you know, and to improve budgeting for educational activities. like I said, because all the three are now under one budgeting unit, it becomes very easy to implement budgets. And then thirdly, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting will all be done under one umbrella. So accountability has been, tightened here. You won't have, systems where you have to run from one ministry to the other. Yet all these ministries are actually, you know, falling under, one umbrella, which is education. And therefore, by merging them, I think we have streamlined a lot of activities, into this one cohesive and, watertight system. Um, there were quite a number of changes that occurred in this national development plan. We've seen the transformation of basic schools into, uh, the basic school system where you had grade 1 to 9, and then the high school system where you have grade 10 to 12 has been done away with. We're back to primary education and secondary education. And so this is another thing that needed to be well articulated and implemented through this national implementation framework, which is stage 3. The policy change may have been prompted by results from the National Assessment Service between 2003 and 2008, which show that learner performance levels that remain static at 40%, suggesting that very little teaching and learning is going on in schools. However, we must keep some pat on the back because we are racing against time towards meeting the 2015 MDGs. Now, I want to state here that Zambia has made huge efforts. It has made great significance in pupil enrollment because Millennium Development Goal 2, which talks about achieving universal primary education, has seen Zambia, make significant, enrollment, and also gender parity with almost hit 50%. But in enrollments, again, I just want to emphasize that our enrollments rose from over 1.5 million learners, basic school level between 2002 and 2010. And the proportion of females enrolled at basic school levels also increased to almost 50%, like I said earlier. In 2010, the community schools that are around the country, about 2,800 community schools, had more than 540,000 learners. And this is about 18% representation of national primary enrollment. Government has also come up with a program that emphasizes early childhood education. As you may want to know, early childhood education was never a part of the Ministry of Education. Early childhood education was left in the private hands. So the private sector was the one that was in charge of early childhood. And of course, the Ministry of Local Government was more or less like the government ministry that was responsible for early childhood education. But at the same time, it wasn't really actively involved in driving this sector.